Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for sticking around for the last couple of sessions. And yeah, if you're as tired as I'm feeling, then hopefully this talk will be interesting enough to get you across to the finish line, keeping you awake. So my name's Meg. I'm a learning technologist at Queen Mary University of London, and I'm joined by Sam from Catalyst. Many of you will probably know Sam. And we're here to talk to you about using Moodle's competency frameworks to support graduate success. Now, first, I wanted you to raise your hand if you have used competency frameworks in Moodle before or are using them currently. Good. Really interesting to see because I hadn't used them before this project, and I'm only using them for this very specific purpose, so it'd be really interesting to hear your thoughts at the end as well. Okay, let's get started. So I'm going to give you a bit of background information on Queen Mary, first of all. We're a fairly large university, around 30,000 students, almost 6,000 members of staff. We're a very diverse institution. We have a spread of campuses across London with a few more international campuses as well. And just wanted to kind of give you the sense of the scale of Queen Mary, because this project impacts all of the students at Queen Mary University, so it gives you a sense of the scale of the project as well. So the title of this presentation mentions supporting graduate success. So we'll get to the Moodle part in just a moment. I'm going to just give you a bit of context about what that means and what Queen Mary are doing to support our graduates. So we are identifying and embedding graduate attributes into our curriculums. What are graduate attributes? They are the sort of knowledge, skills, and behaviors that we want our students to be developing during their time at university, to best prepare them for life after university. So I think we had a talk earlier today about kind of onboarding students. This is very much about students, what happens to them once they leave university. It's not just about employability, it's broader than that. So in the words of our 2030 strategy, we want our students to become good, active global citizens. So let's take a look at them and it will give you a better idea. So here are the 13 graduate attributes. They're grouped by Queen Mary values, that's why they're different colors. And as you can see there, hopefully you can see that some of them very much do relate to employability, such as working in a team and collaboration and applying your expertise, but you also have things like being resilient, acting ethically, promoting sustainability, which aligns more with that idea of being a good, active global citizen. So you can see that there's quite a broad range of skills. Now, just important to note that these were co-created with our students, so this is also what the students feel are the skills that are important for them to learn alongside their academic studies. So it's important to make that point. So those graduate attributes weren't developed by my team, they were developed by another team at Queen Mary called Queen Mary Academy. And they came to us in the Technology Enhanced Learning team, so we're a central learning technology team at Queen Mary. And they came to us because they wanted us to help students to identify and reflect on these graduate attributes more intuitively and easily through the use of technology. So that's why they came to us, and this is a few years ago now. And obviously, I don't know about you guys, but like our first thought when somebody asks this is some sort of portfolio, e-portfolio, that the students can kind of build and track these skills as they move through university and be able to reflect on them as well. So we had a first attempt, and that was a couple of years ago now. It was a tool developed in-house. It was a tool that pulled assessment data from Moodle into Mahara, which is our e-portfolio platform. And so the course team had to map assessments to those graduate attributes. And then when the students kind of completed their assessments, it would automatically populate e-portfolio in Mahara. Kind of like quite a nice idea, right? And it did that job, but there were quite a few limitations with it. The first being, it was, as you can see from this screenshot, it wasn't very visually appealing. It was quite clunky. There was a lot of steps involved in getting it set up, a lot of clicking around. This is a view of like the mapping tool side of it for the course team, and then for the students, they would see something quite similar in Mahara, and it didn't look great. Secondly, it was limited to assessment data in Moodle. Now, of course, if you can't easily map those graduate attributes to one of your assessments, it's a bit of a limitation. And as we all know, there's plenty of things on Moodle that you could map it to. Thirdly, we were asking our students to get to grips with a new platform just for this very specific purpose. Of course, some students would be using Mahara in their studies, but not all of them. So we felt it was important that, we would try and avoid students having to learn something entirely new just for this one specific purpose. And lastly, we uncovered some security issues with the tool. So we knew that we would have to rewrite the code pretty much from scratch if we were to roll it out across the university. So we kind of took this opportunity to go back to the drawing board. And that was around this time last year, actually. And we kind of went to Catalyst and asked them if they could sort of help us, give us some ideas about what we could do to address this not problem, but this kind of question that we had about how to get students to reflect on those graduate attributes. So I'm going to pass over to Sam now.
So if any of you attended Joey's talk on Tuesday, he has this 5S test that we have to all adhere to at Catalyst. I had to write them down because we only ever seem to remember 4 of them. We always forget the 5th one. But I was listening to the story that you just heard, and I was hearing all these wonderful skills, these mechanisms, this reflection. And I kind of said, well, can I talk to you about competency frameworks? And, Meg and the team were like, okay, well, all right, what do you have in mind? And, we said, well, we could easily take lots of money and build something nice and flashy. But what we haven't really addressed is the underpinning activities, the academics thinking about their activities, how to map these competencies. And so I showed them some of the work we've been doing with another client with competency frameworks and the nice visual displays that can come out of it. And we agreed, actually, let's start again, let's go back to core, let's see what's in there, and then plot our way forward. So there was no point in building something unless you can generate the data anyway. So let's start from scratch. Think about where this data can then be fed onto, maybe in phase 2 or 3 down the line, once you've got the underpinning work working. So we went back to basics. We talked about everything being streamlined, integrated. We looked at minimal development because we want it to be upgradable. We want it to be secure, stable, scalable, simplified, standardized, all of Joey's S's. And because it's a core Moodle feature, we knew it would be quite easy to maintain and manage. And again, cost efficient because every time you upgrade, we don't want to say, it's going to cost you this amount to fix all the things that don't work in the new version. So I just wanted to show you some of the things that we discussed and what it kind of became ready for a first run. So of course, we looked at the competency framework. So that's the first thing we looked at. There's 13 graduate attributes, 1 framework with 13 competencies. Nice and easy, yep. I was able to build this in your staging site and say, look what you can do, no development, brilliant. Absolutely fab. You pull these competencies into a learning plan, and then those of you that haven't used competency frameworks before, you can assign your learning plan to your cohorts of students. So you create the cohort, you push the learning plan to them. We did discuss a couple of plugins that could help it. So, like I said, minimal dev, but we didn't include plugins in the dev discussion. So we looked at this wonderful plugin called Monitoring of Learning Plans. It gives you a really, really nice display. And we also looked at the filter clothes plugin as well, just to give students direct access to their reports from their dashboard. The next phase was then looking at how you can actually link these competencies to courses. So this is where the academics will have to come in. They can map these competencies across all the different activities. So the idea is a student completes an activity, it completes that competency, and their learning plan was updated. But obviously, they would have to learn how to use activity completion, so upskilling the academic body into using these advanced features in Moodle. And then with the dashboard, you were able to create a nice, you're going to see it in a minute, a nice dashboard display. So students can see it already as soon as they log into Moodle, and they can follow a path, look at their competencies, look at the graduate attributes, and evidence as well, if they wanted to. So I'll pass you back to Meg.
Okay, so we're going to have a look at what this looks like now. So this is our Moodle dashboard, our students' dashboard. So when they log in, this is what they see. and they need to scroll down, and then they get to this area where it says starred modules and recently accessed modules. So it's an area of the dashboard that they would already be familiar with, because that's probably where they go just to see the module that they're working on at the moment. And we added a tab to this block called Graduate Attributes, and we inserted like this dashboard within a dashboard. And it's made of 3 kind of blocks, and on the left you've got a link out to the Graduate Attributes website with more information for the students. The middle block is taking them to their report, which I'll show you in a moment. That's the actual tool itself. And then on the right, you have where students can upload their own evidence. So this is really handy because this was a key requirement of this project. It was a way that students could also add their own evidence and map it against those graduate attributes. So it was really handy that it was already inbuilt into this Moodle competency frameworks.
Free.
Yeah. But we're going to focus on, that's pretty straightforward, that part. We're going to focus on that middle block. This is one of the plugins that Sam mentioned. I think it's called Filter Codes plugin. So when they click on that See Progress, they will be taken to their own learning plan report. So they don't have to navigate through the profile. They'll be taken directly to their own learning plan. And then this is the second plugin. This view of the learning plan that you're seeing is not the core Moodle's view. It's a plugin called Monitoring of Learning Plans. And the student just needs to choose the learning plan that they're on, and they click Apply, and they scroll down, and they see all of those graduate attributes in a nice list. They can expand it, and when it's expanded, they can see at a glance in how many courses those graduate attributes appear, how many pieces of evidence they've uploaded themselves, whether or not they've evidenced it at all. Now, when they click, they can see in which courses those attributes appear. And then when they click on the attribute itself, they get this pop-up window, which, as you can see, it's called a user competency summary. So you'll notice I'm kind of switching my language up between calling it an attribute, but it's actually a competency, according to Moodle. So it's this pop-out window that gives the students some more context about that attribute. We're linking it to interview questions that the students might encounter that they could sort of think back on and go, okay, yeah, I remember doing this, and it's an example I can provide during an interview. And we have a link out to further support as well with careers and things like that. And then when the student scrolls down, they see an area called, well, you can see in bold it says comments. So this was another handy thing, was already a part of the feature that you could have comments, but we repurposed it as like your reflective space. So this is where the students can add their reflections, and then underneath that you have the list of evidence. So this is the automatic part. This is the part that everyone loves because there's minimal kind of setup on the course team's part, because they just need to, well, they do need to get to grips with activity completion, but on any activity on Moodle, you just set a completion condition, you add the competency or the graduate attribute to that, and you link them together. And then when the student completes the activity, as they would just do anyway, it appears automatically here. So as you can see, there's a link back to the activity as well. So when the student's kind of reviewing and reflecting, they can go back and see, okay, that's what I did, and this is how it relates to this attribute. So really straightforward. We did make some customizations to that report. So it's not exactly what you would see if you were to download that plugin. It was just a little bit of tweaking with the simplifying of the design, changing some of the language based on some feedback that we had, and improving some of the CSS. So you can see on the left, this is what it looks like before, and this is what it looks like now. So just to point out a few things changes that we made, again, very minimal, very easy to make. We actually renamed the report from Monitoring of Learning Plans to Learning Plan Report. We got rid of some duplication there. The plugin originally gives the student 3 different views of the same data, which is really, really nice, but we really wanted to simplify it as much as possible, reduce cognitive load as much as possible at this stage, and so we decided to just give the students the one simplified view. So we removed those tabs, that we've hidden them. Similarly, these icons along the top here, they're really nice. They kind of give you an immediate indication of like how many of the competencies you've met. But this is where the language thing comes in. So a lot of the language is around, obviously because it's competency-based learning, it's around being competent, being proficient in something. And of course, doesn't quite apply to graduate attributes. You're never really competent or proficient in acting ethically. You know, it's something that you develop throughout your entire life. So a lot of the feedback that we got said we don't like the use of that language, so we actually decided to get rid of a lot of this just to avoid that issue, really. These icons kind of indicate progress, which is nice in theory. It doesn't quite work, though. They either have evidenced it or they haven't. There's no kind of progression, unfortunately. So it's something that we could return to and perhaps develop ourselves, but the way it's set up, it doesn't quite make sense to have that information there. And again, we've just removed a little bit more wordage here as well. So hopefully, yeah. I was a little bit nervous that the developer of the plugin would be here and would be a bit annoyed that we've kind of made all these changes, but just to point out, we are using it in a very specific way, and so it's not the kind of competency-based learning that's used more widely, so it's understandable, I think, that we've made these changes. So, initial feedback and problems that have arisen. Everyone loves to hear about this stuff. So I mentioned about the terminology, so we had to kind of clear a lot of that. Unfortunately, there's no way to download this report and take it away when the student graduates or kind of export it, and that was a key requirement of this tool. So luckily, it's something that we can develop ourselves, we know that. It's something that the plugin developer might also add in at a later date. So we're not too worried. We're just going to wait on feedback from students to find out what kind of information they want to actually take with them after they graduate, and then we can sort of build something from that. Similarly, there's no visual indication on the course page when you map a graduate attribute or competency against the activity, when you link them. So we are relying on the course team to add something themselves. So in our instance, we're asking them to add, either an image of as I showed you right at the start, of the icon, or just some contextual information written into the description of the activity, something to let the student know that if they complete this activity, they're going to get this on their report. But again, something we can develop at a later date. We came across a really big bug where if you delete an activity, it breaks that pop-out that you saw earlier. So it means that the student won't be able to see anything on that evidence list for that attribute. So it was a little bit problematic, to say the least. So that is luckily going through kind of peer review at the moment, and hopefully will be fixed. That's this Moodle tracker number. And lastly, and very importantly, it all really hinges on the way that you roll over your courses year on year. So actually, the way that we do it at Queen Mary currently is we take a snapshot of our courses at the end of the year, we move them to an archive site, and then we kind of reset the page. But of course, that breaks that link back to the activity on the report because it's a new URL that's created for the archived course page. So luckily, it's kind of coinciding with this massive project at Queen Mary at the moment to change our rollover process so that it stays on the same site. You're just kind of like creating a new, fresh page, and you keep the old one where it is, so the URL wouldn't change. But something to bear in mind if you were at all interested in using this, it really does hinge on the way that you roll over your courses. So I just want to quickly summarize what we feel is the real value of this. Of course, it's supporting students' holistic development, just for the fact that we're kind of looking at the wider picture, not just academic learning, but all sorts of other skills, useful skills. It aligns very much with university strategy and brings Moodle central. I mean, it already is central, obviously, but we all know how great Moodle is. Sometimes it's really nice to remind the higher-ups in an institution that it can do these great things. It can actually work as it can solve some of the problems that are from other quarters, not just kind of around learning, kind of academic learning. It's a lovely collaborative project that we got to kind of know our colleagues in Queen Mary Academy and in the careers team, and obviously we're working with the students as well. I think, as Sam mentioned, a really handy little advantage is you're upskilling your staff in Moodle, because if nothing else, you're introducing them to activity completion, which not everybody uses. We'd love them to use activity completion more, and you have to use it for this to work. So hopefully this will actually, expose everyone to the wonders of activity completion, and maybe they'll think about using it in other ways on their courses. And also, it shows up, one of the courses on our pilot, they don't actually use Moodle that much. They don't put much on their page. So they were like, oh, I'm not sure how much we can really map against the graduate attribute. So again, you're kind of, okay, they do a lot of work offline, they do a lot of things with the students away from Moodle. How could you maybe bring that into Moodle somehow? Or how could you maybe represent it in Moodle so that we can get it to link to this report? So yeah, just kind of a nice little advantage. And I think, as Sam has already pointed out, really sustainable. Obviously, it's not a separate platform. It's Moodle. It's not going to break when you upgrade. You're not paying out lots of money. You're not having to review contracts. It's minimal development. To get to this stage, we've had to do very little, really. We could do more, but to get it up and running, it's been really easy. And obviously, very, very limited costs as well. So the next steps are to pilot it this year. So we have about 10 modules that are taking part. They've already kind of done the work of embedding those graduate attributes into their curriculum, and now they need to kind of get their learning technologist or their administrative staff to do that mapping, do the activity completion part. And then, yeah, we're going to be obviously reviewing feedback, doing lots of evaluative work, and implementing any changes based on that feedback. And hopefully, this time next year, we'll be thinking about rolling it out university-wide. So watch this space. Maybe next year we'll be back with how that went. So thank you very much for listening. Yeah, happy to take any questions. And yeah, thank you very much. I'm worried about the time.
Hi folks, my name is Rob from Dublin City University. We have also started to use the competency framework feature of Moodle for all of the wonderful reasons you've outlined there as well. Can I just ask, is it always used in conjunction with activity completion, or do you ever have, or will there ever be a need for your lecturers to manually rate the students' competencies? I don't think so.
Yeah, good point. So there is a feature that we've sort of ignored at the stage, which is about reviewing reviewing the competencies. Now, we haven't enabled that. We're not really using that side of it because the point of it really is that it doesn't need that review stage. It's something that's just going to happen automatically, and you are relying on other parts of the university doing their part in educating the students about the tool and making sure that they're, perhaps checking in with them and looking at it. I know that there is I think a role in Moodle that allows other staff to view the report, but really it's private to the student, and only the student can see it normally. So yeah, really interesting question, and I wonder as we move forwards, we're going to perhaps find that people really want that side of it. So it is there, we just haven't really tapped into it yet.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, phase 1.
Yeah.
So what happens in phase 2, and phase 3 and 4. Yeah.
Thank you. Any more questions? Okay. Yeah, one over there, thanks. If you're going out, go out. If you're coming in, please come in for the final session.
So I just wanted to ask about...
It's not working.
Just check the microphone.
Try again. There we go. So I just wanted to ask about the export for the competencies. Have you considered doing standards-based competencies for that export using something like CASE or any other standards that are out there for portability, when the student moves on to another university?
Is that what because we have looked at?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have looked at different options, but it was kind of like we had a set time and budget, and we had to think about where to look at different areas. So we did look at maybe using something like configurable reports to be able to download it, but you want something that looks nice and visual and expensive, stuff that students are going to download and keep and look at rather than just a table of data. So again, we're just going to roll it out, see what happens, see what the students say. If they ask, oh, can we have a nice printout of it? that's where you've got the stick to, or begging bowl to ask for funds to build in that kind of feature, or look into options that are available.